Oh, yeah, because you can. Lo incluyes así, tiene que rasgado, ¿no? Entonces, aunque hay otras cosas de
Hello, everyone, and I would like to welcome you all to the youth side event of the High Level Political Forum 2023. This event is being organized by the UN Habitat, UN DESA, in partnership with the United Nations Environment Program and our civil society partners, AFS Interculture Program and IAAI CLOCHA. In this side event, we are going to not you. Or are we still live? I think so. Yes. Sorry about that. So it was this mic. So event is about the full implementation of a 2030 agenda with youth and with a special focus on SDG 11, that is the sustainable cities and communities. So the first session that we're going to have is the virtual, the hybrid one on SDG 11 and youth workshop, and it will be consisting of the youth statement from the UN Habitat Assembly. How many of you over here are aware of the UN Habitat Assembly and the youth statement? All right, couple of. So I'm sure even all other people who are aware of that, but people who are not aware, we will be hearing from the Youth Advisory Board of the UN Habitat Youth Program. And you know all about the youth statement and everything from the fantastic members that are joining us from different parts of the world virtually. This workshop gonna last for like 90 minutes. And after 90 minutes, we're going to have a brief break and some refreshment. And after refreshment, we'll be having another program, another session that is youth-based, and most of the speakers are here in person. And that session going to take place from 6:30 till 8 o'clock. So stay till the end, people who are watching online and people who are here with us. And Doug Reagans may have something special for you at the end. He's with us, and he is head of the UN Habitat Youth Program. So Doug, thank you for organizing this. So let's start with this session. I already gave you the what we're going to do in this session. So let me invite Ms. Gwendolyn Myers, Mr. Usman Boxy, Rosemary Bawami from Youth Reports for Environment, and then we're going to have the statement from Lenin Zambrano, and these are gentlemen are from the Advisory Committee of the UN Habitat. And then in the end, we're going to hear from Dr. Miroslav Polzer. So Gwendolyn, let me give you the floor first so you can briefly introduce yourself, and then you and Usman can manage the youth statement from the UN Habitat Assembly. Over to you.
Thank you. Very good evening. Hello. Good afternoon, whatever it is of the different time zones that we're operating from. I'm Gwendolyn Myers, and I am on the UN Habitat Youth Advisory Board. but I also work as an executive director of a youth-led peace-building organization in Liberia that is called the Messengers of Peace Liberia, working on the youth peace and security agenda. Probably Usman can also do an introduction, and then before we go into a quick review of the youth statement.
Hi, my name is Osman Pakso. I work in the Youth Advisory Board with Gwendolyn, and yeah, we could start the review.
Okay, so just for, because I think it was really good from what I listened to, people were trying to popularize the declaration as much as possible as we can, so that young people really be familiar and kind of know what exactly this declaration is about. So it's a declaration on youth and sustainable urban development. This was officially presented at the Second UN Habitat Assembly on Sustainable Urban Future, especially achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in times of global crisis, on the 9th of June in Nairobi, Kenya. So especially where young people gathered through the Youth Caucus at the UN Assembly, the UN Habitat Assembly, and young people were able to craft, deliberate, and know exactly what it is we wanted to prefer to youth, especially to UN agencies, government, and as well different stakeholders. So basically, this is more about calling for what young people can be able to do, especially rallying the support of all stakeholders from a local, from a regional, a national, regional, and global perspective in terms of urbanization, achieving the sustainable urban future, what young people can contribute. So basically, there are thematic areas from the entire declaration, but this one was really more about, and that's what we like the way it was actually put together from an action-oriented standpoint, where this time around it's not the usual statement. It's not where young people just say, okay, we just want to have something read at the end of the day. But this was really a call to action. And when it's call to action, then it has to be really deliberate for different officials and those relevant stakeholders to really take action. And young people can also be able to hold those relevant authorities accountable. So the first point of this entire declaration was really a pledge for young people goals by 2030, calling on UN Habitat to amplify actions towards digital literacy among young people, and to also be able to develop partnerships between youth, local governments, and other United Nations agencies as a way to speed up the meaningful participation of young people in policy development, what it has to do with safety planning, program development, and as well implementation. That was the first count of this declaration. And the next point was also about believing that, of course, everyone deserved a safe and a secure place that we need to call a home. And we cannot be able to push for that as part of the 2030 agenda. But it was a way to call local government, national and regional, to enforce legal frameworks that will promote housing, land, and property rights of young people, and especially not forgetting our emphasis always on women and girls. And then also we look at the third point, the count of the declaration was about ensuring how low income and unemployed young people, because we obviously know that when we talk about the entire context of the youth development, we always talk about unemployment of young people and how that is playing into the entire pushing young people agenda at different levels. So obviously we're able to call for attention in terms of ensuring that low-income and unemployed young people understand their rights to adequate housing, and also calling for development of specific policies that will be able to allow young people to have access. So we also called on for the importance of including young people with technical skills, especially when we talk about pushing young people for the sustainable urban future. There are skills, and we're always very mindful of not setting young people up for failure, in as much as we always want young people to be meaningfully involved, meaningfully engaged in all of these different processes and conversations. So it's very important to be able to provide the requisite skills that young people will need to be able to advance their participation meaningfully and enhance their involvement. So obviously, that was also part of the DECLA action, calling for the importance to build capacity, the technical skills of young people, especially in aspects of housing provision. So also in addition to housing, we're also able to push in our DECLA action for what we call addressing the pressing climate change. We're calling on member states to recognize the meaningful contributions of young people and youth-led organizations, obviously that have been engaged and continue to be engaged in the fight in the climate change, in the entire struggle that we are on. Young people are playing a meaningful role with that. So we needed to call much more attention to individually what young people are doing, collectively from an organizational standpoint, what youth-led organizations are doing in terms of helping to scale up activities and provide necessary resources that will help with climate change adaptation and mitigation initiatives. Also, as part of the DECLA action, another important point was also on governments increasing investment in early warning systems that will help us to facilitate timely information distribution in terms of climate catastrophes. We also look at another point of the DECLA action was encouraging the adoption and the use of ICT, youth ICT innovations, being driven by young people with a focus on privacy rights and ethical data collection and management processes. As part of our DECLA action also presented, we also look at how we can find ways to strengthen urban crisis recovery, calling for the meaningful inclusion of young people in platforms and mechanisms for peace in metropolitan areas, especially in regard to the localization of the SDGs. It's very important if young people are meaningfully involved and engaged with that. In terms of what we call conflict prevention and all of that, that is exactly what once young people can be meaningfully involved in processes of such, they will be able to help us keep, our communities and even those cities to be peacefully, to stay peaceful and calm. And even in terms of crisis or whatever, young people will have a role to play with the entire process. But if they do not have the skills, if they are not meaningfully involved, young people will not be able to contribute to all of this. We also called on UN Habitat as part of this to double up their efforts to engage young people meaningfully in projects and initiatives of urban planning and development. And when we talk about this, we all know as part of the youth agenda, which we are pushing from all different fronts, that you do not just present something to young people at the point where you've already created it, but in terms of the urban planning and development, it's important to get young people to be involved from the very moment, from the inception period up to the formulation of the design and the entire implementation. Young people should be part of it, how their cities should look like, designing all of these different innovative approaches. Also, another count was about, we mentioned how smart cities play a significant role in our future as young people, and it's important for governments to also construct information resource centers and ICT hubs to be able to facilitate skill development and innovations among young people. As part of our final count of the DECLA action, obviously, we concluded by calling on youth as young people, because it's also important. You cannot just call on stakeholders and policymakers, but this DECLA action also kind of, put forth our own commitment as well to the process, and not just only calling on people to engage us, but what we also can commit as part of the process if we must do this collectively. So our last count was us committing ourselves to mainstreaming our voices in all major stakeholders, forums, and structures within the UN Habitat system, as part of influencing decision-making processes in different structures to work collaboratively together. So that's just a summary of the entire youth statement or the DECLA action that was actually presented at the Second Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gwendolyn. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Usman to come and give his introduction and say a few words about the topic. Usman.
Hi, I'm also
Is my voice okay?
No, you're perfectly fine.
Okay. So,
So,
as
as Brendan already said,
our purpose
our
is to
purpose is to promote
policies and
both
youth-led
youth-led
organizations,
organizations,
work with regional and local governments to improve the you know, policies and make it to the 2030 goal. Here, I want to do a special shout out for Ijad Yilmaz, our funder, who gives his unwavering support to the Youth Advisory Board. And well, what we could do actually to advocate youth in taking more action is to, get their ideas and promote policies that would work with the governments of those regions to better their sustainability. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
Is in the end on how we can take the youth voices in promoting the sustainable cities and communities, and then can help the governments, or how governments can actually be really open to accept these voices of young people, and how much they are willing to actually involve all of those young people into the decision making process for sustainable cities and communities. That is the most important thing that we will be discussing. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Rosemary Belmy to give her introduction and her remarks on the topic. Rosemary. We cannot hear you, Rosemary. No, you're not audible.
Hello,
Yes, you're audible now.
it's better now. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rosemary Balami, and I'm the national operator for the Young Reporters for the Environment Ghana. And we were also the facilitators for the Youth 2030 Cities program here in Ghana. So, localizing the SDGs is actually a very, very crucial role, because I believe that in order to achieve the SDGs, we need to involve local governments in this whole process. And then when it comes to involving local governments, we also need to make sure that we empower the youth. We also have to make sure that we give the youth that sort of platform, that sort of opportunity to also bring about their innovative ideas and all that. So I think that this urban youth declare action, for instance, is serves as our commitment, what the youth actually need, and then their commitment to actually collaborating with various stakeholders to ensure that they find stringent solutions to the various issues that they outlined in the declare action. Well, with the Ghana declare action, we had a number of issues that are facing the youth that they outlined, and then they were waiting. They were also empowered to make sure that they map out stakeholders to effectively collaborate with them, and then make sure that they achieve these issues that are facing them. So yes, I would agree with everyone, and the fact that the youth are a powerful force, or they are a powerful tool in localizing the SDGs. And then we always have to be given that capacity. They need to build the capacity in us. They need to give us that platform to amplify our voices, strengthen our capacities, and make sure that we collaborate with the various stakeholders to achieving the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Next, I would like to request the video of Mr. Lennon Zambrano, if that can be played. He gave us the video message from Latin America.
Why don't you let Lennon say hello first?
Lennon is not here, is he?
Muy buenos
Muy
días con
buenos días
todos.
con todos.
Mi
Mi
nombre
nombre
es
es
Lady
Lady
Zambrano
Zambrano
y
y
es
es
un
un
gusto
gusto
estar
estar
hoy representando al
presentando.
Museo Viviente Tabalango, una organización dedicada a preservar la cultura, tradición y vida de nuestros pueblos indígenas. Soy un orgulloso quichua tabalo, miembro de la comunidad indígena Tabalango. Nuestro proyecto comunitario está compuesto por 21 familias quichuas otabalos. Somos la primera organización comunitaria que adquirió un bien inmueble, en este caso la fábrica San Pedro. Una fábrica textil que había sido alimentada durante 200 años por la mano de obrera indígena, pero explotada. Un lugar que en vez de dejarlo desvanecerse en la historia, decidimos transformarla en un museo. Es así que para nosotros nuestro trabajo se extiende más allá de las paredes de un museo. Estamos activamente involucrados en iniciativas como Youth 2030 Sites, un proyecto de Young Habit, y principalmente la Fundación Morna. Empoderan a los jóvenes para participar de manera significativa en la localización de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible y la toma de decisiones gubernamentales, que es el principal enfoque que necesitamos, buscamos y necesitamos encontrar. Más que todo, en Otavalo, nuestra delegación juvenil, Museo Viviente Otabalango, presentó una declaración juvenil de acción al alcalde Mario Conejo Maldonado. Esta declaración delineó promesas y acciones con la sociedad civil, el sector privado y Naciones Unidas. Es así que se pueden tomar como borde desafíos locales relacionados con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. En la reciente reunión de alto nivel en la ciudad de Nueva York, los delegados jóvenes de diferentes ciudades presentaron sus declaraciones de acción a los funcionarios gubernamentales, enfatizando que la necesidad de la acción juvenil y la participación en la toma de decisiones para acelerar el logro de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Creemos que crear más espacios y foros de diálogo juvenil es crucial en nuestras voces. ¿Por qué? Porque debemos ser escuchados y debemos contribuir en la formación democrática de políticas que moldeen nuestro futuro. Durante siglos, las comunidades indígenas, incluyendo nuestro pueblo, han enfrentado marginación, discriminación, la erosión de nuestro pueblo, patrimonio cultural. ¿Pero qué? Los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible proporcionan un marco para abordar estos desafíos y promover el desarrollo sostenible en todo el mundo. La localización implica adaptar implementos de objetivos de desarrollo, circunstancias, prioridades únicas y respetar los derechos y tradiciones de nuestros pueblos indígenas. Es así que además la localización de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible fomentan la inclusión, la participación significativa y el compromiso de los jóvenes indígenas. ¿Para qué? Para asegurarnos que nuestras voces sean escuchadas. La localización también ayuda a preservar, revitalizar idiomas, las tradiciones, las prácticas culturales que nos identifican y la revitalización de los medios de vida tradicionales. Al incorporar nuestro patrimonio en los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, contribuimos a la preservación de nuestra identidad y la transmisión de nuestros conocimientos para la futura generación. En conclusión, los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible son vitales para el pueblo quichua y otras comunidades indígenas. Gracias por permitirme resaltar la importancia de la localización para el pueblo quichua. Juntos, yo sé que trabajaremos hacia un futuro en el que las voces indígenas sean escuchadas y nuestras contribuciones sean valoradas. Atrás tenemos nuestro primer sitio One Stop, que nos acredita como principal fundamento de un pueblo indígena. Yupaychani, en mi lengua materna, el quichua. Gracias a todos.
Thank you so much, Lennon. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Miroslav Polzer, who's the founder of IAAI, to give a presentation and speak about the topic. Dr. Miro, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, greetings from Klagenfurt in Austria. My name is Miroslav Polzer. I'm now quickly going to upload also some slides that I have prepared here from my computer. And my topic today is how young people's empowerment for SDG 11 implementation, with a focus also on climate action implementation, can be accomplished with digital innovation, with a focus on digital innovation. And so let me start with a brief information about my organization. It's IAI GLOCHA. It's the International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. It's a UN-accredited civil society organization, and we are building the Global Challenges Action Empowerment Ecosystem GLOCHA. And the theory of change that we have in our work is that knowledge is the key enabler for action and for transformative change. And we are a proud partner of UN Habitat Youth Program now already since 9 years. And so I will present you now some concrete programs through which we are trying to empower youth for local SDGs 11 and 13 action. So, the vision that we have is that we build the data and digital innovation ecosystem and tools for citizens and youth climate action empowerment with a center in Klagenfurt in Austria, and also with an annual festival, which should become in the future the leading gathering of this community of youth solution providers for SDG 11 implementation, and creatives, scientists who work on this kind of solutions. And here on the image you see already one of the tools that we are working on is an individual climate action app and crypto stamps and some other tools which will help to collect data for youth and to mobilize resources. And I was very happy to hear also Gwendolyn speaking about the role of ICT in the UN Habitat Advisory Group's Declare Action. It's really the way to go, and happy to generate synergies on these programs. So a key flagship initiative that we have, through which we give young people a communication channel to the global stage, to the global community, and connecting young people with global resources, is the Digital Art for Climate initiative. It's a multi-stakeholder partnership in which UN Habitat Youth Program is our leading UN partner. And we organize, on the one hand, an art competition, asking young people to create visual art, but also from this year onwards, also music videos in which they communicate and articulate how the stories of how the individual and the local communities can build a climate safe future. The second pillar is that we turn this artwork into NFTs and digital collectibles, which can be sold and collected, and that we build a resource mobilization mechanism for financing youth and in general citizens climate action empowerment. And the third pillar, which is a new program which is coming this year, is that we are using this program for innovative climate action learning and digital skills development, because this Web3 technology, this new blockchain powered platforms and everything, it's a big opportunity for livelihoods generation and for income for young people, but many young people don't know about this. And with our program, which we will develop as an edutainment hub, which we will first present in the United Arab Emirates in the run-up to this year's climate conference, COP28, at the GITEX Impact Conference, 15th till the 20th of October, and then later also at our Digital Innovation Pavilion at the COP28 Climate Conference in Dubai in December. There we will show how a replicable program of bringing this art competition and this NFT creation skills, digital wallets, and global challenges action ideas and this kind of solutions, how this can be entertaining for young people, and on the other hand also building digital skills. And on the next level, which will take another year or two, we will then use this also for innovative social entrepreneurship, business model development, and resource mobilization for young people. And really proud to have you in Habitat as a partner. On this image, you see the Matare graffiti girls working on a mural, which was one of a special award winners for our COP26 Digital Art for Climate initiative. And our initiative has been also featured on big billboards. Our winners have been on big billboards in Tokyo, on the Shibuya marketplace, and on CNN, on the Wall Street Journal. And yeah, it's really a positive story which resonates with young people. And we are going to launch this year's Digital Art for Climate edition at a public event on the 19th of August here in Austria, where we will have a co-creation festival. And the theme will be co-creating the future. It's somehow an input to the youth engagement mechanism for the COP28, but it is already also a preparation for creating input to the UN Secretary General Summit of the Future next year. And we are including this year a music video award category, Artists with Special Need Award in cooperation with Art for All Center in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. And we are working with Earth Day Network Japan. We are planning an entertainment show. And it's really going to be a big mass mobilization for climate action, but also a tool really for young people, wherever they are, that they can contribute to the global fight against the climate crisis and getting their local communities also engaged. A key tool program that we have is this Gotcha app, empowering citizens to become agents of change. And the idea is that when we create a mechanism through which the individual can document and get verified and certified individual contributions to the SDGs, especially the climate SDG 13, and that this entries in a global challenges action registry are then turned into an NFT, into a digital asset, which can be then collected and traded, and that this kind of collection of SDG action badges, NFT action, NFTs can become some kind of game, but also the basis for micro SDGs entrepreneurship. And it's very important that these NFTs will have this impact information connected to them, and then also relational information about these NFTs. For instance, we have from Digital Art for Climate, there's this entry that a contribution of an artwork is one entry, and then the next entry, which is related to the previous one, is about the purchase of the NFT, and then the information about the projects that are financed by this revenues from the purchase, and then the fourth level of information, the impacts that are generated. And with this kind of registry, Global Challenges Action Registry, and the relational information between the entries, then there can be made the attribution of a certain impact to a certain contribution, like the artist who have contributed the artwork can then say, I have been contributing, enabling a certain impact. And this, I think, is transformative. And the second tool that we are working on also now in the Interreg Central Europe program is about engaging citizens, especially youth, in a just energy transition. And there we are developing challenges mapping tool, a citizen science tool for through which the citizens, the youth, they can document if there are challenges, some problematic developments in the context of existing just energy transition programs, or they can also define action potentials, developing pathways towards action and impact for their local communities. And we see here also a very strong potential link to the UN Habitat Youth Program and UN Environment, World Environment Situation Room Youth Engagement. I think that some of these components that we are developing in this Interreg Central Europe program can then be used also in the UN Habitat World Environment Situation Room Climate Change Maker program. Yeah, and this here are my contact details. As I said, there will be a launch of the Digital Art for Climate call for submissions on the 19th of August. Here you have the homepage where you will find it, and you will find it also on social media. And giving back to Ali and Doug, I'm very grateful and happy that I'm a partner of UN Habitat and that I can share information about it.
Thank you, Miro. Thank you so much, all the presenters and the speakers who are online with us. So I'm gonna move forward to the next segment, that is question and answers. That I have some questions and then remarks. Maybe we have some remarks or questions from the audience that's watching over here in New York City. So one question that I have from all of the speakers who are like present online, especially from the members of the Youth Advisory Board of UN Habitat. As we discussed earlier, Usman mentioned about making youth-led policies or the policies that are designed by the young people and then give it to the cities so they can implement into the city. So what is the framework you guys think you have, or what can be the ideal framework of such kind of engagement? If there is such a framework exists, I think people would really like to hear about that. If there is such kind of a framework that exists, that young people can get engaged with the decision making process and implementation of SDG with their local governments.
You want to take
Go for it. I will come in after.
Sure. So right at the moment, we don't have an exact framework, but we do have a pilot city, which is Balıkesir. So when we get anything done, we'll, go to Balıkesir, we'll try it out, see if it works, and if it works, we'll try to implement it to other cities.
Norman, can you put some lights on what kind of a framework, that framework do you have?
Couldn't hear
Couldn't
that.
hear that.
I asked like if you can elaborate a little bit more about the test framework that you are working on.
Well,
Well,
at the
at the
moment,
moment,
we don't have
we don't have a
particular
particular
framework,
framework,
but we
but
will
we will come up with one
in the near
in the
future.
near future.
Gordon, do you wanna, can you hear? I don't know if she's with us, Doug. If Gordon is with us, I see her screen is stuck.
Gwendolyn's
When
gonna
Dylan's gonna be.
I think it's frozen. No message.
All right, I'll move to Rosemary. And Rosemary, I have a question from you, as it's mentioned that you are from Young Rapporteurs for Environment. And what do you think? I mean, there are big metropolitan cities around the world that are having problems of climate change, and they are facing so many issues. We have seen urban flooding in many of the cities that are taking place, and it's affecting a lot of the population. So, what role young people can play, or do you have any example of young people that are taking action in their local cities and communities regarding those environmental changes that we are facing?
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for the question.
So
Well, regarding the issue,
coming into the Ghanaian context, for instance, we also face a whole lot of issues, and then it was even included in our urban youth declare action. We have sanitation problems, we have flooding and all that. So I think as young people, what we have to do is, why are we, for instance, we are young reporters for the environment. So what we do is to basically give the environment a voice, report on these environmental issues, and then provide solutions to it. And also we push for policies to make sure that these particular problems that we are facing in the environment will be solved. We need to give always make sure that we keep government also accountable to make sure that whatever commitment that they have with the local government, they empower various local government agencies. That Ghana, for instance, we are assemblies.
Checking. Yes, I think we can. I think we lost Rosemary. Is Gwendolyn back with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Uh-huh. So yes, in terms of frameworks, methodology, and everything, how we can engage youth meaningfully, and what stakeholders can be able to work with in terms of engaging with youth. I would definitely say there are a number of protocols and different, instruments that we have. Obviously, even looking at I think it's the scorecard, the SDG scorecard, it's been worked on even with the UN Habitat team. That also gave a clear pathway in terms of how we can engage young people, also in terms of the sustainable urban future and the voices of young people to be reflected. We also look at what we call the different resolutions that are existing in terms of, if we even look at what we call from the peace and security standpoint as well, these are all instruments and protocols that are calling for meaningful participation of young. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we also look at the resolutions that that I adopted, especially even the one that we always use in terms of youth engagement, that is on the youth peace and security, connecting the YPS agenda also to the urban, the sustainable urban future of young people. So obviously they are different. The 2030 agenda as well is also from the inclusive standpoint. So all these different frameworks, protocols can be used obviously by different stakeholders, because they are all calling for the voices of young people to be respected. They are clear pathway, even in terms of the new agenda for peace as well. It's also the new call to action to involve young people meaningfully. So all of these different instruments, I'm just saying that there are a lot of them that we can put forth that young people can be able to use as a leverage also for engaging with stakeholders, and also stakeholders using them as a way to say, okay, how can we bring young people, how can we meaningfully involve them in the conversations as part of the entire 2030 agenda, achieving the 2030 agenda. So these are just some of the examples that we're talking about, because all of them is a way to say young people are calling, demanding, they all give us legitimacy for our voices to be respected.
Thank you so much. Is Dr. Miro online with us? So I have a question from you, Miro. As your expertise is in climate change and implementation of the Agenda 2030 into the city. So in that context, would you like to share the best practice of young people on how they can, contribute in their individual capacities or the organizational capacities, as it's not an easy task to get engaged with the governments or the local governments unless they are open and very much on the receiving end and welcome from young people. So, in such case, how young people can get engaged into SDG 11 into the context of the climate change.
Yeah, so very solid way of getting engaged is, of course, running for office. So in city councils and this kind of things is, yeah, people are saying it's no better way to predict the future than shaping it. And it's really, in my understanding, it's very important that young people look at the governance structures, how the city councils and the administration and everything is running, and then looking where a certain profile of interests and qualification fits in, and then running for the relevant positions. Yeah, this is a formal running for office, and there have been also the context of UN and others, some campaigns encouraging young people to really run for office for different positions. So this is a powerful way to get engaged. Then there are certain youth council programs, and UN Habitat Youth Program is also very active in this field. Ahmed Sobuktas is UN Habitat Youth Program, a former partner there, has developed, worked on these topics, and there I've learned great things. Other good praxis cases are also spaces, that cities create spaces for young people, and also here again, UN Habitat has developed some role model hubs, concepts, and also my organization is somehow it is one of our programs to develop GLOCHA centers, Global Challenges Action Centers, with the vision having it in every city, every local community. And we have to a space where young people get access to knowledge, access to technology, access to financing, and access also to the social networks through which action can be empowered. And we are working on developing this resource mobilization, also that the global community will channel funding to this kind of structures on the local level, on the city level, where young people get this space, get this opportunity, get the necessary resources. This is one of the programs, again, with UN Habitat as a wonderful partner. We are looking how to make this bold vision a reality. Yeah, these are some of the thoughts. And what a strong program, again, relating to what we are planning, is we need to reach the young people on the mobile devices. Everyone is using several hours a day the mobile devices, and this is a very well suited communication channel to reach the young people. And yeah, here UN Habitat is working on a SDGs scorecard app. We are working on our challenges mapping tool and on the individual climate action dashboard app. We have to develop there this common database, interoperable data structures. We will bring the knowledge to the young people, but also get inspiration, knowledge, solutions, entrepreneurial ideas from the young people to the local community, but also to the global level. These are some thoughts on how youth empowerment for SDGs implementation action can look in reality, in practice.
Thank you so much, Nero. Meanwhile, I would like to tell the audience that our participants that are present here in the auditorium, if you have any remark, any question, if you want to say anything, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to provide the floor. So at any point of time you have any remark or questions, please. Sure. Alpha, I need your help.
Sure. Hi, you can see me, but I can see you. I'm from Mexico. My name is Monica. And okay, yes, I'm gonna go over there so you can see my face. Okay. Hi. My question goes towards the digital art for climate. Yeah, the doctor. Miro? Yes. The Dr. Miro. I was wondering if the implementation of the program regarding the, wait, I took a picture of it. Yeah, the digital challenge mapping for just energy transition. I was wondering if it's available for like a replica, because I'm working on my organization, and my organization is something like this, and I was wondering if I could, if it's possible to recreate it or as a good practice there in Mexico for youth. And yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks for this question. We will be very happy to collaborate with you on replicating the solution and adjusting it to your needs and your circumstances. And are you living in New York? Are you? Or in
No,
Mexico?
I'm living in Mexico.
Okay. Because I will be in Mexico in September for 2-3 weeks. We could meet there and have a project development discussion, exploration session. But we can also, if you send me via email your details or connect with me via LinkedIn, I would be happy to explore with this, because I believe that there are really dozens, if not hundreds, of areas in which this tool can really be a game changer for youth empowerment. And with working with you, we will learn ourselves as well. And so we are very happy to look into possibilities to bring the solution, the tool, to Mexico and to develop it further with you.
So much. And yes, I will send you a message, an email, and I'll keep updating you. And thank you so much.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He'll come here.
Good evening. This is C. Mukhtar Abdurrahman from Mauritania. I'm just wondering, this was great, and using art like food to advocate for climate. This is something we also have reflected on during the COPs. The digital one is, I think it's a really great idea, and it's accessible because anyone can do it like in any place in the world. We're actually leading youth African Youth for Adaptation Finance. My question is how climate justice is addressed by UN Habitat, like generally, and in the digital art initiative specifically. How this programs are bringing climate justice to the people who are victims to this climate change without having any contribution to the causes. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would open, because it's a very broad question, I would open the floor for Miro first and then for the members of the advisory board, because it's also targeted towards the advisory board as well. Miro, let's start with you.
Okay. Quick response. Climate justice has so many dimensions. It is climate change has a very strong gender dimension. So we have to compensate women. We have first to understand what is the burden, what are the burdens, the negative consequences of climate change for women, what is gender specific, and then try to tailor to mitigate this damage and these injustices, and also empower women to fight the fight against the climate change, but also to adapt in a way that the individual dignity and human potentials are really preserved and developed. So the other another dimension, climate justice very often is with indigenous people. It's all about inclusion, about communication, and here I think that UN Habitat program is doing a great effort. Our organization, my organization, we just had a session about SDGs learning last week in the context of the UN HLPF, and there we have agreed that we will collaborate with an initiative it's called Indigenous Knowledge Research Infrastructure, where we will bring our blockchain solutions, our Global Challenges Action Registry, also to help preserve indigenous knowledge and to develop it further. And a big climate justice topic is, of course, funding. And it is the people who have contributed least to the climate crisis are suffering the most, and it's the matter that there needs to be mechanisms in place for large-scale financial flows from the developed world, from the big emitters to those in the global south or wherever they are, disadvantaged people who are suffering. And there is the Green Climate Fund, the $100 billion pledge per year. Each year, developed countries have promised to pay $100 billion to the people in the countries of that are in developing countries, and the money is not flowing. And so here we have a systems failure of global governance, even systems failure of the UN system. And here there needs to be a lot of mobilization, campaigning, and this will not come from UN programs. This has to come from citizens, and we will be happy to help with communication tools and also with financial resources, where once we will be also better equipped in this field to fight for climate justice. We need more justice, because justice and peace are coming hand in hand, and there's no peace and no sustainable future, no climate future, if we don't have climate justice.
Thank you, Mimos. And I will open the floor to the members of the advisory board to address the part on the UN habitat.
Okay, so basically, I think it comes back to our daily action, where in terms of addressing issues, where we talk about the fact that there should be more support strengthening urban crisis recovery, whether it has to do with climate justice and all of that, where we call for meaningful inclusion of young people in platforms, continuous engagement of young people in platforms and the mechanisms for peace in metropolitan areas, and especially as it relates to the localization of the SDGs. You all agree with me, and that's the reason why we sit here, even on the advisory board at UN Habitat. That is a clear and a practical example of when we talk about how we can really engage young people meaningfully and not ceremoniously, because most times when we talk about youth engagement, we need to be very deliberate about the actions that we take when we want to involve young people. So youth as a major force, obviously we know that as young people, we are key for any change and development. And our major role, even sitting on this advisory board and helping UN Habitat, is in terms of building trust. Most times in all of these conversations we're having, we obviously know that young people also do not trust decisions of adults. And as the same way, adults do not also want to trust young people. So our being on this board for the UN Habitat and our continuous engagement is to help build that trust, because trust is very important. When there is a lack of trust in the system, whether it's between older generation and the younger generation, we'll obviously have all of these gaps that we continue to see. So that is what actually we're here to build, that trust from our generation, and even having that kind of relationship with the older generation, even as we go around climate justice, climate action, so that people really can know that young people can bring lasting change and development. Young people listening to young people. So the peer-to-peer approach is what is important. Even the conversation we are having right now at the moment, it plays a major role too. If young people listen to the different, points that young people are putting forth in ways to address all of these different issues, climate crisis and all of that, young people tend to believe, they tend to trust, their own. And that's a whole different approach when an adult is talking or a senior person is talking to a young person. It's a whole different approach of the peer-to-peer way of engaging our generation to achieve the sustainable cities and establish resilience at all levels. We also look at the creation with young people in terms of quick practical example. Also, even at the moment in Liberia, we have what we call the Liberia National Youth Task Force on Election Violence. These are ways young people come together. Even at some point in time, we work with the city government of Monrovia to be able to carry on a lot of environmental work, sanitation programs in Liberia. But youth organizations came together and were supported by the city government of Monrovia, where we had a whole process linking sanitation to peace, environment to peace. So these are all of the different ways of building trust, and young people were able to take to communities. Young people were able to design different approaches, innovative approaches of the city government of Monrovia, to see that even older generation communities can to build that trust, that we are here to contribute and we can make the lasting impact that we actually yearning for and looking forward to. So these are all some of the great examples, if I even think about them, of how young people are already doing these things. And in other countries, I'm just trying to cite Liberia perspective, but young people are doing really great work. Young people are already doing these things, but most times the spotlight not really given to young people. So even when we talk about the climate justice conversation that our dear brother mentioned, in as much as we'll say some young people know and they probably will know how to engage, we should not forget the continuous emphasis that is placed on capacity building. It is very important to continue to build the capacity of young people, even to continue raising awareness of how young people can meaningfully contribute to all of these different happenings. So let's not forget that, and that's what we talk about, even from the DECLA action of providing the technical skills also for young people to know that. So when they sit at the table, or when they are in the room, or they are around the room, whatever it is, young people can be meaningfully prepared to engage in these different conversations.
Thank you, Claudia. I would like to invite the next person who wants to ask the question.
Hello, my name is Pankti Dalal and I'm from India. Thank you so much for that panel and all those insightful interventions. I think one of the tangible ways in which you mentioned that youth could participate is by taking part in city politics and city leadership. But coming from a country like India, we know that like women are often not encouraged to take part in politics. And this sort of effort requires women, especially young women, to be trained, have capacity building and investment that is required to encourage them to participate in something as important as city leadership. And so could you speak a little bit more about how UN Habitat is encouraging member cities around the world and regions around the world to encourage investment in capacity building for young women to take part in leadership roles?
Thank you for your question. Again, the floor went back to you, Robin, and the members of the committee.
So was it a question or was it like a statement? I mean, I'm a bit. What's the question, please?
The question is there capacity building efforts taking place from UN Habitat to help young women take part in local leadership?
Okay, So, well, I think for that, I can definitely be able to say with the different engagements of members of the UN Habitat Youth Advisory Board. So we have people from diverse background into the different areas. So we are already addressing that, but again, it can't just stop with us. And that is the reason why conversations like this, to be able to reach out to other young leaders, other youth leaders who are doing this work, will be very important. But from the different, our different perspective, we are already working with to empower young women in this to take action. Even from the nonprofit that we run at Messengers of Peace Liberia, from what I do in Liberia, managing over 1,500 young people to be able to take actions at the local level. So the organization is more on national, at the national level of engaging young people. And in Messengers of Peace, out of the 1,500 plus of volunteers that we do manage, 80% of the representation young women. So imagine out of 1,500, 80% is young women. I always say I have no apology for that. Being a young woman into leadership and into the seat that we are sitting we should be able to create space and provide more opportunities for young women to be empowered. So we are doing that, and in our different ways. I think Rosemary and also we have an example of what she's also working on. So even different youth leaders are doing different things in their different contexts, and I think with that collective effort, and that's what the Youth Advisory Board for UN Habitat is just here to bring all of these local voices of youth leaders together and to be able to amplify our voices in the different conversations and different structures of UN Habitat. So we will get there. We're not going to say everything 100%, but we must be able to give credit to what young people and youth leaders are already doing at the moment, and to be able to build on that, to be able to see how we bring more young people on board and to support them.
Hi. Take these off. Just to know, we do have a lot of focus on women and young women. We have a program called Her City, which is basically a toolbox for young women to get engaged and empowered. It's also very based a lot on technology. We have a program called Game Changers, Young Game Changers, which is using geospatial tools and tools like Minecraft as a participatory way to engage young people. And then the third program that we can mention here is Youth 2030 Cities, which is a youth program focused on engaging young people to achieve the SDGs at the local level. So, and Youth 2030 Cities also is, again, a very strong focus on young women. I mean, young women, of course, cut across everything we do, and we have, as Maimouna Mod Sharif is our executive director, I don't know if you've met her, but anyways, she very much champions that agenda. So I would just log on to her, but Her City is a really cool, like it's just a whole toolbox of different ways that young women can engage and such. So that would be my number one.
Thank you for sharing.
Good day, everyone. My name is Azizat Fadembola. I'm a medical doctor, a One Health advocate, and humanitarian from Nigeria, but I'm based in New York. We know we're in a one world crisis. It's an honor to be here. We know we're in a one world crisis, and climate crisis is part of the one world crisis we have, which induces health crisis, humanitarian crisis, food crisis, among others. My question is, we are talking about this in almost every space, and recently I've had the opportunity of sitting in the civil meeting with UNG president to discuss on climate crisis, among other issues. But specifically, which resilience system is the UN putting in place, or does the UN Habitat, which resilience systems have the UN Habitat put in place to help current and future global citizens? We're in a world where we encourage global citizenship. I strongly believe where I am from in Nigeria, it is states, whatever affects someone, it state can affect someone in New York, because now the world is a global village. What resilience system? Not only the global south, because climate crisis affects everyone in every corner of the world. If it's not affecting you, it's knocking on your door. What resilience systems has the UN put in place? Or does the UN Habitat plan to put in place to help current and future global citizens? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone wants to chime in on this? Did you ask a question?
Yeah. So your question is really much more on what UN Habitat, what are the important things for resilience for cities?
Yes.
Okay, so at this moment, I think maybe Doc going to come in to probably speak about that more from a holistic standpoint of UN Habitat. So from the level of the Youth Advisory Board, so our focus is really on issues of how young people can be able to engage more with the urban future and what young people contribution will be like, and to push more to continue to advocate for all of these things. So in terms of what we are focusing on also from our side is to be able to say, well, we can't be able to talk about resilience of communities, of cities, if we do not also be able to what? To build, again, you continue to hear us talking about how we build capacity, how we have conversation, dialogue with communities, and all of that through the different initiatives that we run. Because resilience also has a lot to do, and we always talk about it from a standpoint where the mental health also in the physical, mental and physical of the people. You cannot be able to overlook all of these things when we talk about resilience of community, resilience of our cities, because the people who live in the cities, the people who live in the community, so young people, our role is to continue to build that trust with our communities, with our cities, and to see how the people who live in the cities and the people who live in our communities can be able to work meaningfully, collectively with us in terms of the different programs that Doc also mentioned, My City, My Voice, Peaceful Cities, the SDG scorecard, which also will be collecting information from people. All of these things are part of the process that we are getting to, because it starts with a holistic approach. If we cannot get the views of people, if we cannot get the buy-in of people, what it is, what will help to keep them resilient, what will help to keep our cities to be strong, it has to come from the people. And that is what, even from our level, from the UN Advisory, Youth Advisory Board, we're there to be able to ask young people, what is it? How do you want it to be like? And based on that, we'll be able to craft the necessary policies and everything that we can put into action and lobby with different local governments and national governments. It has to come from the people. So I agree with you. We cannot be able to point to an exact thing, because even all of us on the recovery, we're joining, is a process that is still ongoing, and there is no fixed definition or the fixed procedure that you can be able to give to this at this time. But it's a continuous consultation and engagement through a dialogue process of what communities want, and to have their voices reflected, what will benefit them, what will keep them strong and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for answering that. If we do not have any further question, then we will move towards the conclusion of the session. And with that, I would like to request Dr. Miro to first go ahead and give the final concluding remarks.
Yeah. So my concluding remarks are that we need transformative change, and for this, young people are perfect agents of change. Young people have the determination, the will, the social energy to build a better world, because young people will live in this world that will be built longer than the old ones, who sometimes say, I don't care, I will not feel the negative consequences of climate change or so. But young people, they know it's about the quality of one's life, and much more determined for pushing for change. And the local level is essential. And here my thought that from a UN systems logic, UN Habitat is a very important body which builds the connection between this global governance body, the United Nations system, and the people, the realities of the people on the ground. And in my view, UN Habitat should be given much more weight and more attention. But now with this localization of the SDGs programs, it is already happening to a certain extent, and this is good. And yeah, and one thing, it's more a feeling or so, is that we are really in a crisis now that we should recognize as regards climate change. I'm living here in Austria, in the south of Austria. We have now this week had already 2 storms that have been, I don't know, in the previous 30 years, there have been perhaps 10 storms like this, but now there are 2 storms in a week, and yeah, extreme weather events everywhere. And so we should really be much more active on global goals, especially on the SDG 13, and building also on the local level this action networks, action communities, and which are connected with a global community. And I hope our digital tools will help there a certain part, but it's really very urgent that we take action. The house is burning. So, but giving back, it's not a good concluding thought, but yeah, more youth action, more local action, and let's be more active.
Thank you, Mimo. Usman, if you have final concluding remarks.
The only thing I want to say is the youth is the future, so it's their choice where the world will go.
Thank you. Rosemary.
Yeah. So what I would like to say is the fact that localizing the SDGs relies on the unwavering commitment and participation of local governments, but it is we, the youth, that possess the power to breathe life into this vision. So we need to join hands as young leaders and work together to build inclusive, safe, and sustainable cities where every individual can thrive. Together, we can turn our collective dreams into reality and create a world that truly leaves no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rwandan, final concluding remarks from you.
So obviously, when we look at, I will conclude on how science and technology contribute meaningfully to youth participation in areas such as migration, disaster risk reduction, peace building, and violence prevention. I would say we need to secure funds through resource mobilization and donor conferences, looking for options in science and technology for youth participation and involvement. We also need to establish strong policies and procedures for youth participation. We need to build meaningful partnerships with the private sector and network with strategic partners to support youth-led solutions at local levels. Capacity building opportunities, also very important for youth participation. We need to establish and operationalize UN youth offices and focal points at all levels and states. We also need the use of pool funding for youth-led initiatives and prepared young people for jobs and support them in acquiring the necessary skills and accessing the resources needed to grow and develop. We also need to ensure access of all youth to basic health and social services systems. These are some great recommendations moving forward in terms of achieving the sustainable urban future. Thank you so much, and we look forward to continuous engagement.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining us online, and thank you so much everyone for joining us here in New York City. And with that, I would like to conclude this session. And next session are gonna start as more an in-person session at 6:30, and before that at 6 o'clock we're going to have a little refreshment. So people watching us online, let's reconnect at 6:30. And people who are in New York City, we will see you again at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. Thank you.